The champagne burns cold against Marcus Brooks' dark skin, dripping onto marble floors that cost more than most people's homes. "Who let the help dress up and play pretend?" Victoria Whitmore's voice cuts through 500 conversations, stopping them dead. Her finger points at him like a weapon. The only black man in the room. The only one who doesn't belong. Or so they think. Marcus feels his hand tremble, just once, before he stills it. 20 years of boardrooms, and they still see a servant, even here, at his own deal. Richard Whitmore grabs Marcus's invitation, the exclusive VIP card, and tears it slowly, deliberately. "Security, remove him." The crowd watches. Some pull out phones. No one speaks up, not one. Marcus remembers his daughter asking why he works so hard. For this? To be erased in rooms he's earned the right to own? He reaches for his phone, steady now. Types one word that will change everything. Execute. The security guards are 3 steps away when Marcus finally speaks, his voice barely above a whisper. "You should have read the contract." In 57 seconds, they'll understand. But by then, the Whitmore empire will already be burning. 3 hours before his public humiliation, Marcus Brooks stands in his penthouse office, Manhattan sprawling beneath him like a conquered kingdom. The city's glass towers reflect the morning sun, each building a monument to someone's ambition, someone's cruelty. He adjusts his tie, the same nervous habit from his first day at Goldman Sachs, when a senior partner asked if he was there to fix the computers. 22 years later, he owns the building. Sarah Mitchell enters without knocking, her heels clicking against Italian marble. Desert Crown Holdings documents are signed. The Whitmores took the bait. She pauses, studying his reflection in the window. They think it's oil money from Dubai. William Whitmore actually said, and I quote, "Those Arabs never show their faces anyway." Marcus's jaw tightens. The shell company was his design, a careful construction of offshore entities and legal facades. Let them see what they expect to see. Let them choke on their assumptions. And our people at the gala? 4 security operatives, positioned as guests. Your donation to the hospital wing bought more than goodwill. Sarah sets down a folder, heavy with consequence. "Sir, are you certain about this? The Whitmores aren't just old money. They're the same people who blackballed my father from their country club." The words come out harder than intended. Marcus touches the photo on his desk. James Brooks, janitor, dreamer, dead at 51 from a heart attack after his 3rd job rejection. The same people who told him to be grateful for the opportunity to clean their floors. He remembers that day with perfect clarity. 13 years old, watching his father's shoulders slump in the parking lot of Whitmore Industries. "They said I didn't fit the company culture," his father had whispered. 20 years of night school, and I don't fit the culture." Sarah's voice softens. "The penalty clause is ironclad. 50 million if they breach the dignity provisions." She hesitates. "Though I doubt they've read past the profit projections." "They never do." Marcus turns from the window, his reflection replaced by resolve. "Tell me about Victoria Whitmore." Desperate, her husband's divorce lawyer is Nathan Harrison, best in the city. She needs this deal to maintain her position in the family trust. Without it, Sarah lets the implication hang. She's been telling everyone about the Arab windfall that will save Whitmore Industries. The irony tastes bitter and sweet. They need him. They just don't know it's him they need. Marcus's phone buzzes, a text from his daughter, Aisha, at Columbia. "Dad, seeing news about Whitmore Industries. Please tell me you're not doing something crazy." He types back, "Define crazy." Dad, just business, baby girl. Nothing more. But it's everything more. It's every resume rejected without reading. Every loan officer who suddenly found issues with paperwork. Every time security followed him through stores he could buy with pocket change. Every Marcus Brooks who never got the chance to stand in this office. Sir, Sarah interrupts his thoughts. There's something else. Robert Johnson will be there tonight. He's concerned about your methods. Robert Johnson. First black CEO of a Fortune 500 company, now more worried about protecting his position than opening doors for others. Marcus had hoped for an ally, found a coward instead. Let him concern himself with his own conscience. The morning light shifts, casting long shadows across the room. In the distance, the Whitmore building stands like a tomb waiting for its corpse. Marcus remembers his mentor's words. Anger is a luxury you can't afford. But what about justice? What about making them see? He pulls up the contract on his screen, scrolling to page 47, subsection 3.2.1. The Human Dignity Clause, buried in legal language so dense most lawyers would skim it. Any act of discrimination, verbal or physical, constitutes immediate breach. Penalty: $50 million. Right of immediate termination: absolute. They signed this? He asks, though he knows the answer. William Whitmore himself didn't even send it to legal review. Too eager to close. Sarah allows herself a small smile. They see Desert Crown Holdings. They see $500 million. They see salvation. They don't see the trap until it's sprung. Marcus checks his watch. 2 hours until the gala. 2 hours until 20 years of planning crystallizes into a single moment. His phone buzzes again, a reminder about his therapy appointment next week. Dr. Jennifer Martinez has been helping him process what she calls racialized trauma. He wonders what she'll call tonight. Sir, there's one more thing. Sarah's hesitation is unusual. I've worked for you for 7 years. I've seen you outmaneuver giants, build empires, change lives, but I've never seen you like this. This isn't just business, is it? Marcus looks at her, this brilliant woman who chose to follow him when no one else believed. Did you know that Whitmore Industries has never had a single black executive? Not one in 73 years. I didn't. After tonight, they never will. He buttons his jacket, armor for a different kind of war. Have the car ready at 7, and Sarah, make sure the cameras are rolling when it happens. As she leaves, Marcus returns to the window. The city hasn't changed in 3 hours, but something in the air has shifted. Storm coming, his grandmother would have said. She survived Jim Crow, lived to see him graduate Harvard, died before seeing him succeed. They can take everything else, she'd told him, but they can't take your dignity unless you hand it to them. Tonight, he'll test that theory. Tonight, dignity comes with a $50 million price tag. The reflection in the window shows a man in an expensive suit, but Marcus sees the boy who watched his father cry in a parking lot. Both of them will be in that ballroom tonight. Only one will leave victorious. The Waldorf Astoria's ballroom thrums with calculated laughter and strategic conversations. Each gesture measured in millions, every smile a transaction. Marcus Brooks enters through the main doors, not the service entrance, never again, and feels the room's temperature shift. A few heads turn, recognition flickering and dying like candles in wind. He's just another suit to them, another body in their ecosystem of wealth. Victoria Whitmore holds court near the champagne fountain, her laugh sharp as crystal breaking. She's telling the story of their Dubai windfall to a cluster of investors, hands dancing with each embellishment. 500 million, she says, loud enough for half the room to hear. The Arabs practically begged us to take their money. More champagne, ma'am? A young black waiter appears at her elbow, barely 20, eyes down. Victoria doesn't look at him. Obviously, and make sure it's properly chilled this time. She turns back to her audience. You have to be firm with them. They need structure. Marcus watches the waiter's jaw tighten, sees himself 25 years ago, swallowing pride with a smile. He approaches the young man as he retreats. What's your name? Deshawn, sir. The wariness in his voice speaks volumes. College? City College. Pre-law. A pause. I'm saving for law school. Marcus hands him a business card. Call my office Monday. We have internships. He moves on before Deshawn can respond, before emotion can crack his composure. There will be time for that later. After. Well. A familiar voice stops him. Robert Johnson, immaculate in navy pinstripe, appears at his shoulder. I heard you might be here. Robert. Marcus accepts the offered handshake, noting how quickly it ends. Listen, Marcus. Robert's voice drops, becomes urgent. I know what you're planning. The whole Desert Crown thing? It's clever, but it's dangerous. You're playing with forces that what? That have kept us out for generations? Marcus keeps his voice level, but the edge is there. That made you the only one for so long you forgot there should be others. Robert's face hardens. I opened doors, and then stood in the doorway. The accusation hangs between them like a blade. When did you become their guardian, Robert? When did you decide the price of your seat was keeping the rest of us standing? You don't understand the pressure. I understand surrender when I see it. Marcus spots movement across the room. The Whitmores are converging, Richard already red-faced from whiskey, Victoria's pearls catching light like tears about to fall. Excuse me, I have business to attend to. Ashley Rodriguez, Washington Post, has positioned herself perfectly, phone angled for the best view. Her press credentials hang prominently, a shield and a weapon. She catches Marcus's eye, nods slightly. The stage is set. Champagne? A server appears, one of Marcus's security team, he notes with satisfaction. All the pieces moving into place. He accepts the glass just as Victoria Whitmore's voice cuts through the air. Oh God, not another one. Richard, look. She's pointing at him now, her face twisted with disgust that she doesn't bother to hide. They're multiplying tonight. The conversations around them begin to die, a ripple of silence spreading outward. Marcus turns slowly, champagne balanced in his hand, and meets her gaze. Mrs. Whitmore. Do we know you? Richard steps forward, chest puffed like a peacock defending territory it never earned. This is a private event. I have an invitation. Marcus reaches for his pocket, movements deliberate, watching Richard's face shift from annoyance to anticipation. He's done this before, Marcus realizes. How many times? How many careers ended with torn paper and security escorts? The VIP Platinum invitation emerges, its gold edges catching light. Only 20 exist, each one personally issued by the gala committee. Richard's hand moves fast, snatching it before Marcus can react. These can be forged, Richard announces to the growing audience. They're getting sophisticated now, probably printed it at some copy shop. He holds it up to the light, performative concern creasing his brow. Yes, definitely fake. The watermark's all wrong. Richard. William Whitmore materializes from the crowd, patriarch presence commanding without effort. What's the commotion? Caught this one with the forged invitation. Richard begins tearing the invitation, each rip deliberate, savoring the sound. I've called security. William's eyes find Marcus, and something flickers there, not recognition, but calculation. He glances at his phone, then back. A text from his banker, perhaps. A notification about Desert Crown? "I'm sure there's a misunderstanding," he says carefully. "No misunderstanding." Victoria's voice rises, playing to the crowd now. "We can't have everyone who owns a suit walking in here claiming they belong. What's next? The cleaning crew mixing with guests?" The laughter that follows is nervous but real. Marcus counts the faces joining in, memorizes each one. His phone vibrates. Sarah's message. "All systems ready. Your word." "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." The first security guard arrives, hand already on his taser. The second follows, blocking retreat. Professional, efficient, practiced. How many times have they done this dance? "Of course." Marcus sets his champagne down untouched. His voice carries now, pitched to reach the cameras, the crowd, history itself. "But first, perhaps Mr. Whitmore should check his phone. I believe there's a message from Desert Crown Holdings." William's face changes, blood draining as he reads. That's not possible." "What is it?" Victoria snatches the phone, reads, staggers. "Marcus Brooks? But Desert Crown is... You're... the man you're trying to throw out?" Marcus straightens his tie. The gesture his father's, his grandfather's, every black man who ever had to be twice as perfect for half the recognition. "Yes. I'm also the man who owns your future." Owned. Past tense. The security guards hesitate, hands still on weapons but uncertain now. The crowd presses closer, phones rising like salutes. Ashley Rodriguez adjusts her angle, catching every pixel of Victoria's crumbling composure. "There must be," Richard starts. "A mistake?" Marcus interrupts. "Like assuming the color of my skin determines my place in your world? That kind of mistake?" He turns to address the room now, voice carrying generations of suppressed fury wrapped in boardroom precision. "I've been in rooms like this my whole life. Watched men like you tear up dreams like paper, throw out potential like trash, all because it came in the wrong package." "Marcus, please." William steps forward, patrician authority cracking. "Let's discuss this privately. The way you discussed my father's job application privately, behind closed doors where no one could hear him beg?" The words land like blows. "No. This conversation happens here, in the light, where everyone can see." "Mr. Brooks." Victoria switches tactics, tears threatening carefully applied makeup. "We didn't know. If we had known, you would have been more careful." Marcus's smile is winter cold. Not less cruel, just more careful. The room holds its breath. 500 of New York's most powerful people reduced to audience members in a drama they never auditioned for. Somewhere in the crowd, Robert Johnson stands frozen, watching his carefully constructed world, where he was the exception that proved their rule, collapse in real time. "Security," Richard tries once more, bluster replacing strategy. "Remove this man." The guards don't move. The one closest to Marcus speaks quietly. "Sir, perhaps we should verify." "Verify!" Victoria's voice cracks, aristocratic composure shattering. "He's nobody. He's the owner of Desert Crown Holdings, the primary investor in your salvation, the man whose contract you signed without reading." Marcus checks his watch. "In approximately 47 seconds, I'm going to make a call that will determine whether Whitmore Industries survives the night. I suggest you choose your next words very, very carefully." The silence that follows is absolute. Even the city itself seems to pause, waiting for what comes next. The 47 seconds tick by like heartbeats in a cardiac ward. Victoria Whitmore's hand rises, trembling with 3 generations of unchecked privilege, and Marcus sees it coming. The slap that will cost $50 million. Time slows. He could stop her. One movement, one word. Instead, he stands perfectly still, offering his face to history. But the hand never lands. William Whitmore catches his daughter's wrist inches from Marcus's cheek. Victoria, no. His voice carries the weight of sudden understanding, bank notifications still glowing on his phone screen. Mr. Brooks, I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding. Has there? Marcus's voice drops to barely above a whisper, but in the crystalline silence of held breaths and recording phones, it carries to every corner. Like when my father stood in your office 30 years ago? James Brooks, night janitor. 20 years of night school, top of his class, and you told him he wouldn't be a cultural fit. William's face drains of color. The name registers, the memory surfacing like a body from deep water. That was different times. Different times. Marcus tastes the words like poison. Same building, same office, same excuse. He turns to address the room, but his eyes never leave William's. Do you know what cultural fit means? It means your skin is the wrong shade for the portrait gallery. It means your name sounds too much like the people who clean the floors instead of the ones who walk on them. Daddy? Victoria's confusion cracks her voice. She's never seen her father retreat, never witnessed the Whitmore name mean anything but power. What is he talking about? Nothing, sweetheart. But William's denial comes too late. The crowd has sensed blood in the water, and sharks know no loyalty. Mr. Brooks! Richard attempts damage control, his businessman's instincts finally overriding his bigotry. Surely we can discuss this like civilized. Civilized? Marcus laughs, and it's the sound of glass breaking. Was it civilized when you tore up my invitation? When your wife pointed at me like I was something stuck to her shoe? When you called security to remove me from a room I could buy with what I spend on coffee? Now see here. Richard starts forward, whiskey courage and wounded pride propelling him. Richard, stop. William's command comes sharp, but Richard's momentum carries him into Marcus's space, chest puffed, finger pointing. I don't care how much money you have. You don't belong here. You'll never belong here. This is our world, built by our families, for our children. His finger jabs toward Marcus's chest. Not yours. The security guards move instinctively, hands reaching for weapons, but Marcus raises one hand, stopping them. He wants this moment recorded, needs it captured in high definition, from multiple angles for posterity. Our world, Marcus repeats, soft as a funeral prayer. Built on whose backs? With whose blood? He steps forward, and Richard stumbles backward, tripping over his own entitlement. Your grandfather made his fortune in textiles. Want to discuss whose hands picked that cotton? Your great-grandfather's shipping company. Should we examine the cargo manifests? How dare you? How dare I? Marcus's control finally cracks, just a hairline fracture, but enough for decades of suppressed fury to seep through. How dare I speak truth in your temple of lies? How dare I stand in a room my father cleaned for minimum wage and refuse to bow? Ashley Rodriguez adjusts her angle, catching the tear that escapes Victoria's perfect makeup. The crowd presses closer, a mixture of horror and fascination painting their faces. Some recognize themselves in the Whitmore's assumptions. Others realize they're witnessing the kind of moment that reshapes industries, ends dynasties, births legends. Sir. Sarah Mitchell's voice comes through his earpiece, steady and calm. Convergence Capital is standing by. David Goldstein is ready to announce the partnership the moment you give the word. Marcus touches his ear, acknowledging. The gesture draws William's attention, and understanding dawns in the old man's eyes. This isn't just about revenge. It's a corporate execution planned with surgical precision. Please, William's voice drops to barely audible. The company. 400 employees. Their families. Ah, Marcus nods slowly. Now you remember the families, when it's your legacy at stake, when it's your name on the building. He pulls out his phone, the gesture deliberate as a sword being drawn. Tell me, Mr. Whitmore, how many resumes have you thrown away without reading because the name sounded too black? How many careers died in your trash can? How many families lost futures because they weren't the right cultural fit? That's not... I never personally... No, you just built the system, maintained it, benefited from it. Let your children inherit it. Marcus's thumb hovers over his phone screen. And now you want mercy? Marcus. Robert Johnson breaks from the crowd, his carefully maintained neutrality finally crumbling. This isn't the way. You're better than this. Better? Marcus turns on him, and Robert takes an involuntary step back. Like you've been better? Sitting in your corner office, collecting your checks, telling yourself you're proof the system works. How many times did you watch them do to others what they did to you, and said nothing because you were safe? I had to survive. We all had to survive. The difference is, I remembered why. Marcus's phone screen glows. One button. One word. $500 million and 73 years of systematic exclusion, balanced on a moment. But you're right about one thing, Robert. I am better than this. He turns back to the Whitmores, a family portrait of privileged panic. William clutching his phone like a lifeline. Richard red-faced and swaying. Victoria's pearls catching light as she trembles. The contract you signed has a dignity clause, Marcus says, his voice carrying the weight of precedent. Any act of discrimination, verbal or physical, constitutes immediate breach. $50 million penalty. Immediate termination rights. He pauses, letting the words sink in. You signed it, Mr. Whitmore. Didn't even send it to legal. Too eager to grab that Arab money. We can negotiate. No. The word falls like a judge's gavel. You had 73 years to negotiate, to change, to open doors instead of slamming them. Time's up. Marcus lifts his phone. The room holds its breath. 500 of New York's most powerful people, reduced to witnesses at an execution they helped create. In the distance, sirens wail, the city's constant reminder that power shifts, empires fall, and justice sometimes comes dressed in an Armani suit. Any last words? Marcus asks, and the question hangs in the air like a noose. William Whitmore looks around the room, searching for allies, finding only cameras. His empire, built on 3 generations of exclusion, stands one button press from extinction. We're sorry, he whispers. Marcus smiles, cold as winter dawn. No, but you will be. His thumb descends toward the screen. The thumb hovers 1 millimeter from digital devastation when the ballroom's LED wall erupts into life. Marcus doesn't press send. Not yet. Instead, he smiles as his pre-recorded face fills the 30-foot screen, younger, but carrying the same quiet fury. The timestamp reads, recorded 72 hours ago. Good evening, video Marcus says, voice echoing through the stunned silence. If you're watching this, then the Whitmore family has just violated the human dignity clause of our contract. A clause they signed without reading, because when you've never been denied dignity, you can't imagine needing to protect it. William Whitmore staggers, one hand clutching his chest. This was planned. Every second, Marcus confirms, pocketing his phone. The real show is just beginning. On screen, documents cascade like falling dominoes. Bank statements, email chains, the entire architecture of Desert Crown Holdings laid bare. I am Marcus Brooks, CEO of Brooks Global Holdings, and for the past 6 months I have been your mysterious Dubai investor. Video Marcus pauses, letting each word land like a hammer blow. You took my money while refusing to see my face. You celebrated my wealth while denying my humanity. And now you'll pay the price you agreed to. Turn it off! Victoria lunges for the screen controls, but security, the real security, not Marcus's plants, blocks her path. They've seen the documents. They know who signs their checks. The $50 million penalty clause activates immediately, the video continues. But that's just the beginning. Every vendor contract with Whitmore Industries contains a morality provision. Every loan includes an ethics mandate. Every partnership can be terminated for cause. The screen splits into dozens of smaller frames, each showing a different corporate logo. And discrimination, ladies and gentlemen, is cause. The first phone rings, then another, then dozens, a symphony of destruction playing out in real time. CFOs discovering frozen credit lines, lawyers fielding breach notifications, board members watching stock futures plummet in after-hours trading. No. Richard drops his whiskey, the crystal shattering unnoticed. You can't do this. One incident doesn't— One incident? Marcus's laugh cuts through the chaos. Shall we review the security footage? The emails your HR department buried? The lawsuits you settled with NDAs? He gestures to Ashley Rodriguez, who holds up her phone, live stream viewer count climbing past 3 million. Or should we ask the internet? The LED wall switches to social media feeds. Whitmore Gate trending worldwide. Video clips multiplying like viruses. The slap that never landed becoming the shot heard round the boardroom world. Please! William rushes forward, pride abandoned. The employees, 400 families who had nothing to do with this. Interesting. Marcus steps aside as the old man stumbles. That's exactly how many applications Whitmore Industries rejected for cultural fit in the last decade. 400 futures you denied. 400 families you failed. But they're innocent. So was my father. The words crack like a whip. So was every qualified candidate you turned away because their name was Deshawn instead of Dylan. Because their address was Brownsville instead of Bronxville. Because they threatened your comfortable monopoly on success. Sarah Mitchell's voice comes through his earpiece. Sir, Convergence Capital is ready. David Goldstein is standing by. Marcus nods, then addresses the room. But I'm not you. I don't destroy the innocent to punish the guilty. He pulls out his phone again, this time dialing. David. Yes. Announce it. The LED wall changes again. David Goldstein, CEO of Convergence Capital, appears via satellite from his office. Behind him, lawyers and executives stand ready. Ladies and gentlemen, Convergence Capital is pleased to announce the acquisition of all assets and obligations of Whitmore Industries, effective immediately. All employees will retain their positions with improved benefits. All pensions are secured. All contracts will be honored. What? Victoria's voice cracks. But the penalty. The $50 million penalty stands, Marcus interrupts. Paid from the Whitmore family trust, not the company coffers. Your personal fortune, not their livelihoods. He turns to William. You'll also sell your shares at market value, currently 40% below yesterday's close. Convergence gets a discounted empire. Employees keep their jobs. And you, we're ruined, William whispers. No, you're humbled. There's a difference. Marcus straightens his tie one final time. You'll still be wealthy, still be comfortable. You just won't be gods anymore. You'll be what you always feared most: ordinary. The room watches as an empire changes hands in real time. Lawyers appearing with documents, board members making frantic calls, the Whitmore dynasty becoming a footnote in someone else's success story. "One more thing," Marcus says, as he prepares to leave. He looks directly at Victoria, mascara streaming down her cheeks. "Your husband's divorce lawyer, Nathan Harrison? He's brilliant. Second-generation immigrant. Parents were janitors." A pause. "The kind of people you think should stay in the service elevator. He's about to take half of what you have left." Security parts as Marcus walks toward the exit. The crowd splits like the Red Sea, some applauding, others too stunned to move. Robert Johnson stands frozen, watching his careful neutrality rendered meaningless in a world where the rules just changed. At the door, Marcus turns back one last time. "Mr. Whitmore, that cultural fit you were so worried about? I just bought your culture, and it fits me perfectly." The doors close on 500 witnesses to a revolution dressed in Armani. Behind them, the LED wall displays a simple message: Brooks Global, building tomorrow, today. In exactly 57 seconds, the news will break worldwide. But Marcus Brooks is already gone, walking into a night that suddenly seems full of possibilities. Behind him, an empire burns. Ahead, something better rises from the ashes. The last sound from the ballroom is William Whitmore's voice, broken and bewildered. "How did we not see this coming?" The answer, of course, is simple. They never really saw him at all. The Waldorf Astoria empties like a punctured lung, exhaling Manhattan's elite into a night that suddenly feels colder. Inside, the Whitmores stand among the debris of their dynasty, shattered crystal, torn invitations, and the ghost of an empire that ruled for 73 years. Marcus Brooks doesn't see it. He's already in his Bentley, Sarah Mitchell beside him with a tablet showing real-time market destruction. Whitmore Industries down 42% in after-hours trading, she reports. Every major vendor has triggered their morality clause. Chase Manhattan froze their primary credit line. The board called an emergency meeting for midnight. And the employees? Convergence's HR team is already sending reassurance emails, full retention bonuses, better health care, 3 board seats reserved for diversity candidates. She pauses. You could have destroyed them completely. Destruction is easy. Marcus watches the city blur past, each light a life that won't be ruined because he chose precision over vengeance. Building is hard. My father understood that. His phone buzzes. Aisha again. Dad, it's everywhere. CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera. They're calling it the deal of the century. He types back. Come home this weekend. We need to talk. About what you did. About what comes next. The responses cascade like dominoes. Bloomberg. Breaking. Whitmore Industries acquired in hostile takeover after discrimination scandal. Wall Street Journal. The $50 million slap. How racism cost a dynasty. But it's the Washington Post headline that matters. The man they didn't see coming. Marcus Brooks and the new rules of power. Ashley Rodriguez calls from the newsroom. Mr. Brooks, I need a comment for the record. No comment. You just orchestrated the most public takedown in corporate history. You have nothing to say? Marcus considers. Through the window, he spots a homeless veteran, cardboard sign barely visible. The driver slows at his gesture. He hands the man $500, watches surprise transform weathered features. Tell them this. Power isn't about what you can take. It's about what you choose to build. Back at the Waldorf, Victoria Whitmore sits in the empty ballroom, pearls scattered across marble like broken promises. The divorce papers arrived by courier 15 minutes after Marcus left. Nathan Harrison doesn't waste time. Her phone rings incessantly. Friends who aren't friends. Family calculating inheritance. Lawyers smelling blood. William finds her there at midnight, aged a decade in 3 hours. The board voted, he says quietly. Unanimous, no confidence. I'm out. Richard, too. Convergence wants the transition complete by Monday. Daddy? Her voice sounds like a child's. What are we going to do? I don't know. The admission costs him everything. I genuinely don't know. Meanwhile, across the city, Deshaun the waiter stares at Marcus Brooks's business card. His manager, still reeling from the night's events, approved his schedule change for Monday. An internship at Brooks Global. Pre-law to corporate law. A door opening that was always locked before. Robert Johnson sits in his empty office, resignation letter glowing on his screen. He'd spent 20 years being the exception, the proof they weren't racist because, look, they had one. Tonight, Marcus Brooks destroyed that comfortable lie. The letter stays unsent, but something fundamental has shifted. Tomorrow, he'll make calls. Real ones. To the brilliant black executives he'd helped keep in middle management, afraid they'd threaten his singular status. Time to open those doors he'd been guarding. The ripples spread. In Silicon Valley, a venture capitalist adds diversity metrics to funding criteria. In Chicago, a law firm revises hiring practices. In Atlanta, a tech company announces blind resume reviews. Not because they suddenly grew consciences, but because they watched the Whitmores fall and realized the cost of blindness. Marcus arrives home to find Aisha waiting, despite the late hour. She's compiled everything, every article, every video, every market analysis. You planned this for years, she says. It's not a question. Since the day Grandpa died. He loosens his tie, finally allowing exhaustion to show. He never got to see me succeed, but he knew I would. Was it worth it? All that anger? All that planning? Marcus looks at his daughter. Brilliant, fierce, unburdened by the weight he's carried. Ask me in 10 years, when you're running a company, when doors open instead of close, when your name is an asset, not an obstacle. She hugs him then, and he feels something release, not the anger, that's too deep, too old, but the need for it. The Whitmores were just symbols. The real work starts tomorrow. His phone shows one final message, from an unknown number, but he recognizes the formal tone. Mr. Brooks, this is William Whitmore. I need you to know something. You were right about everything. I'm sorry. Not for tonight. I deserved tonight. For your father, for all of them. I'm sorry. Marcus deletes it without responding. Apologies don't resurrect the dead or restore lost decades. But somewhere in the city, a janitor's son owns an empire, and 400 families keep their jobs, and a young black waiter will become a lawyer. The Bentley's engine cools in the garage. Upstairs, father and daughter talk until dawn about futures suddenly possible. And in the distance, New York's skyline glitters with the same indifferent beauty. Except now, one more building belongs to someone who was never supposed to own anything at all. Justice, Marcus thinks, as sleep finally claims him, tastes like champagne and ashes. But tomorrow tastes like hope. 48 hours after the Waldorf incident, as financial media christens it, the old order scrambles to adapt to new rules written in real time. Marcus Brooks hasn't given a single interview, but his silence speaks louder than any manifesto. The dominoes fall with algorithmic precision. Whitmore Industries stock hits a 10-year low before Convergence's acquisition stabilizes it. 7 institutional investors, their own diversity metrics suddenly under scrutiny, withdraw from Whitmore Family Ventures. Victoria's art gallery in Soho, Richard's hedge fund, Williams' seat on 3 Fortune 500 boards, all evaporate like morning mist under an unforgiving sun. "Sir, you need to see this." Sarah Mitchell enters Marcus's office with a tablet showing LinkedIn's trending topics. #Dignity Clause has gone viral. Law firms across the country report a 400% spike in contract amendment requests. Companies are literally rewriting their futures to avoid becoming the next Whitmore. Marcus doesn't look up from the proposal he's reviewing, a community development project in the Bronx, where his father once worked 3 jobs. Let them scramble. Fear teaches faster than kindness. The SEC announces an investigation into discriminatory practices affecting shareholder value. Not because they care about justice, but because Marcus proved discrimination has a price tag. $50 million makes morality measurable in market terms. At Whitmore Industries, now officially Convergence East, employees arrive to find their key cards still work, but everything else has changed. The executive floor's portrait gallery, 3 generations of Whitmore men, comes down. In their place, empty frames. "To be filled by merit," reads a simple placard, "not birthright." Deshaun Williams, former waiter, walks these halls in a new suit bought with his signing bonus. His internship doesn't start until Monday, but HR invited him for orientation. He passes the break room where janitors eat lunch, his people, his past, and stops. "Mind if I sit?" The surprise on their faces when he says, "I used to be you," breaks something loose in his chest. Pride, maybe. Or just recognition that the ladder suddenly has new rungs. Robert Johnson makes his 4th call of the morning. Each conversation follows the same pattern: shock, suspicion, then cautious hope. "Yes, I'm serious about the position. Senior VP, full autonomy, and a seat on the board. 20 years of gatekeeping, undone in 20 phone calls. His resignation from his current firm takes effect Monday. His new venture, Johnson Brooks Capital, will launch with Marcus's backing and a simple mission: fund the unfundable, back the overlooked, build wealth where it's never been allowed to grow. The Washington Post runs a profile. The Whitmore women, collateral damage or complicit. Victoria's charity luncheons canceled. Her membership at the Metropolitan Club under review. The divorce proceedings accelerate as Nathan Harrison documents years of financial control and emotional manipulation. "She called me surprisingly articulate at our first meeting," Harrison tells a colleague. "Now she'll learn how articulate I can be in court." But the real earthquake comes from an unexpected source. Aisha Brooks, Columbia senior, publishes an op-ed in the campus newspaper that goes viral within hours. "My father's American dream." She writes about James Brooks, the grandfather she barely knew, whose calloused hands built a foundation for greatness despite every door slammed in his face. About watching her father work 18-hour days. Not for money, he has enough, but to prove worth that should never have required proof. About sitting in predominantly white classrooms, wondering if her acceptance letter said diversity more than qualified. The piece ends with a challenge. The Whitmores lost more than money. They lost the illusion that their world is the only world. My question to my generation: what illusions are we protecting? What doors are we keeping closed? What dignity are we denying while we sip our lattes and tweet our outrage? Marcus reads it 3 times. Sarah finds him at his desk, eyes closed, holding the printed article. "Sir?" She's going to be better than me, he says quietly. Angrier in the right ways, clearer about what needs to change. He opens his eyes. Set up the foundation, full funding. Aisha runs it after graduation. The Brooks Foundation? The James Brooks Foundation. For every Deshawn who needs a chance, every Victoria who needs to learn, every system that needs disruption. He stands, looking out at the city his father cleaned and he now partially owns. Sarah, what really changes systems? She considers. Power? No, memory. The Whitmores forgot they weren't gods. America forgets its sins. Companies forget their employees are human. He turns back. We're going to build something that remembers. That evening, William Whitmore sits in a Queen's diner, his first time in the borough, across from James Brooks Jr., Marcus's younger brother, a public school teacher who declined his brother's offers of wealth, choosing impact over income. They drink coffee in silence until William speaks. I remember your father. The interview. I remember thinking he was too eager, too grateful. It made me uncomfortable. William's hands shake. I think I hated him for wanting it so much, for making me see how much I'd been given. James Jr. studies this broken aristocrat. My father died thinking he wasn't good enough. You killed something in him that day, in all of us. He signals for the check. But Marcus doesn't need your guilt. He needs your world to change. Start there. The meeting ends. William Whitmore takes the subway home, another first, surrounded by the city's workers. He sees exhaustion that mirrors his own, dignity that costs nothing and everything. One woman, noting his lost expression, helps him find the right platform. Her kindness burns like acid on wounds he's just beginning to feel. By week's end, the aftershocks stabilize into new foundations. 3 more companies announce blind hiring practices. 2 venture capital firms create diversity funds. 1 senator proposes the Corporate Dignity Act, making discrimination financially ruinous for publicly traded companies. Marcus Brooks watches from his office as the sun sets over Manhattan. Somewhere in the city, his father's ghost walks a little taller. The work isn't done, may never be done, but tonight, for the first time in 20 years, Marcus feels something he'd almost forgotten. Not satisfaction, not vindication, just the simple, revolutionary possibility that tomorrow someone like his father might walk through the front door instead of the service entrance. And that, more than any fortune, is how you change the world. 6 months later, Marcus Brooks stands before 1,000 faces at the inaugural Dignity in Business Summit. The venue, the former Whitmore Industries headquarters, now the James Brooks Center for Economic Justice. Where portraits of old white men once hung, diverse faces now line the walls, janitors who became CEOs, immigrants who built empires, women who shattered ceilings. They asked me to give a speech about success, Marcus begins, his voice carrying across the silent auditorium. But I want to talk about failure, my failure. The audience shifts, uncertain. For 20 years, I believed changing my position would change the system. I was wrong. Systems don't change because one of us makes it through. They change when we make the door so wide it can't be closed again. In the 3rd row, Deshawn Williams sits in his first-year law student suit, notebook ready. Beside him, Victoria Whitmore, divorced, humbled, but somehow lighter, takes notes for her new role at a nonprofit teaching financial literacy in underserved communities. The universe has a sense of irony. My father died believing he wasn't enough, Marcus continues. That lie killed him as surely as any heart attack. Tonight, in this building where he was rejected, we declare that lie dead. His eyes find Aisha in the front row, running the James Brooks Foundation with a fury that makes his corporate raids look gentle. Power isn't the money in your account or your name on a building. Power is the moment a child realizes the world has space for their dreams. He pauses, remembering that night at the Waldorf. The champagne, the humiliation, the moment he chose precision over destruction. Someone recently asked if I forgive the Whitmores. Wrong question. This was never about them. They were just symptoms of a disease that tells some people they matter less. Tonight, we stop treating symptoms. Tonight, we cure the disease. The applause starts slowly, uncertain, then builds. Not the orchestrated enthusiasm of corporate events, but something rawer, more real. In the overflow room, William Whitmore watches on a screen, surrounded by other former titans learning hard lessons about humility. He's spent 6 months volunteering at the very community center his family once fought to keep out of their neighborhood. Redemption, he's learned, tastes like served meals and scraped knees and stories from people he never saw as human. Marcus raises his hand for quiet. I see some of you brought your children tonight. Good. Let them see this. Let them know that dignity isn't negotiable, that justice delayed isn't justice denied, it's justice compounded with interest. A few laughs, nervous energy breaking. Let them know that every boardroom that lacks their faces is unfinished. Every system that denies their worth is unstable. Every door that closes to them is one we're coming to break down. He finds Robert Johnson in the crowd, now funding 17 Black-owned startups through Johnson Brooks Capital. Their eyes meet, understanding passing between them. The work continues. My father would have been 70 today, Marcus says, voice softening. The same age as Whitmore Industries when we transformed it. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe the universe keeps perfect books. He straightens, CEO posture returning. So here's my challenge. Don't just open doors. Build new buildings. Don't just take seats at the table. Build bigger tables. Don't just break ceilings. Remove them entirely. The speech ends not with words, but with action. Marcus steps aside as the youth choir from the Bronx, kids from his father's old neighborhood, take the stage. They sing Lift Every Voice, their young voices filling the space where deals were made and dreams were crushed, transforming it into something new. Later, as the crowd disperses into the New York night, Marcus stands in his father's old janitor's closet, now preserved as a reminder. Sarah finds him there, holding a worn photo. James Brooks in his Sunday best, applying for a job he'd never get. Was it enough? She asks quietly. Marcus touches the photo gently. Ask me when Deshawn graduates law school, when Victoria's students open their first businesses, when William's grandchildren grow up in a world where their friends' names don't determine their futures. He turns to her, and for the first time in 20 years, his smile reaches his eyes. But tonight we started. Outside, Manhattan glitters with its eternal promise and peril, but something has shifted in the skyline. The Brooks building stands tall among the towers, proof that sometimes the son of a janitor can buy the building his father cleaned. And sometimes that's exactly how revolutions begin. Not with violence or destruction, but with dignity reclaimed, one boardroom at a time. The city lights blur as Marcus finally heads home, carrying his father's photo. Behind him, the building hums with new purpose. Ahead, the road stretches long and difficult. But for the first time in his life, Marcus Brooks isn't walking it alone. And that, more than any fortune, more than any revenge, is how you really change the world.